For a lot of people, growing wealth might seem like an impossible task. However, it can be a lot closer than you think. In today's video, we're going to be looking at proven ways to build wealth if you're starting and have practically zero, even if you're in the negative, with our first one, educating yourself about money. Now, when it comes to YouTube and it comes to financial education, it is something that I am very passionate about and I love to do. The strategy is absolutely free. The more time and effort you put into it, and I started doing this about 15 years ago, the more you're going to get out of it, the more you're going to understand the market, you're going to understand exactly how to budget and know exactly the investing strategies, the saving strategies, the budgeting strategies. The easier and the more time and effort you spend into this, the easier it does make it when you do the education for yourself. And of course, if you like the content I'm putting out, definitely subscribe to the channel. But when you start looking at some of the basic information, like what is budgeting? How do you track your expenses? What exactly does that look like? It is the foundation when it comes to building it. Now, second one we look at is getting your employer 401k match. This for me is number one. This is the absolute perfect one. Once you have a little bit of an education, once you have an understanding of what you're investing into, this is where you get your employer match. If they're giving you 4%, take the 4% and run with it. If they're giving you 6, 8, 10, regardless of what it is, 100% getting that match, because when you're getting the match, you are instantly getting 100% of what you put into it. Now, of course, there are a lot of caveats. If you go above the match, if you invest more over, the 4 or 5% that they're matching, that is up to the investments, which of course, when you start that education piece in the first one, can make a really big difference when it comes to retirement. And also, it comes down to you. The third one we look at is investing in yourself and investing in your career. This is one of the biggest financial assets because giving you the ability to earn more money in your current job or even starting something like a side hustle, it is very important. If it is the cost of education, if it is getting certifications, regardless of what it is, if you're making money not only this year, but also making money for the rest of your life, making yourself even more available, more educated, more well-rounded. Training may not pay off today, but training will pay off in the long term. And I, again, have seen that through a multitude of times when I went ahead and built my wealth. Number four, we look at the automating of the savings. This is huge. When I think of automation, when I think of automatically not only savings, putting money, from my paycheck into a separate account where I have that high yield savings account, but also looking at never touching it if it is just the emergency fund, but also automating everything else. I automate all of my bill pays, I automate my savings, I automate my investing, whether it's going into my portfolios with M1 Finance, which I do have a link down below, or I'm putting it into Bitcoin. It is really imperative. It builds wealth very quickly. That is the reason why 401ks are usually for people the biggest accounts they have, because it is out of sight, out of mind. When you're putting money in your 401k, it is going to sit there. Now, talking about generating money, opening a high yield savings account. This is one we know we've seen rates start to decline. Right now, again, with that M1 Finance, they are paying 4.25%, which is higher than a majority of CDs. And we are talking liquid savings accounts. This is the place you have to absolutely park when you have that emergency fund. When you're building up that emergency fund, it is going to start the snowballing. For instance, in November, I carry about $15,000 to $20,000 in my emergency fund. I got $72. That's right, 72 bucks might not seem like a lot, but for a lot of individuals, it could be. For some, it might not be just but a drop in the bucket. But for me personally, that almost pays my cell phone bill in the entirety, just with the interest that I got for one single month by using that high yield savings account. Now, when we think of the biggest bang for buck, this is when we talk about paying off those high interest debts. When you start looking at credit cards, when you start looking at personal loans, they are usually at an exorbitant amount. When you start looking north of even 12, 15, 18, 25, 30% interest, you are eating up all of the money. And one of the cool things that I've done, and one of the things that I really preach as a financial counselor, is sit down and figure out how much you're paying on a monthly basis when it comes to your interest. How much of your paycheck are you giving away? For instance, if I'm making $20 an hour, I'm paying $100 in interest every month. Guess what? There are 5+ hours every single month that I have to work just to cover the interest that is going to those bills. Makes a really big difference when you start putting it into actually feasibility and putting it into a time factor, where if you're paying $300, $400, $500, $600 a month in interest on loans that you have, on credit cards you have, on things that you have previously purchased, it makes a big difference when you put it and you can visually see it saying, hey, I have to work the next 5 days just to pay the interest for this month. For me, I did this in my master's program and it was eye-opening when you look at how much is in there. And of course, it all starts and revolves around the education of creating and sticking to a budget. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the budget, they don't like the spending plan, they don't want to track what they spend. But honestly, when you start doing this, it's going to be a little bit time consuming. Once you continue doing this, it gets super easy and super concise. Me personally, I do use zero-based budgeting, meaning I have a set amount of income, I have a set amount of expenses. Everything that is left has an allocation. It is going into my investment accounts, it's going to my HSA, it's going into the Roth accounts, the IRAs. There is a destination for every single dollar that I have out of every single paycheck. And I do this very simply every single month, because when you think of a majority of your expenses, a majority of them are fixed. They're going to be the same. When you look at rent, when you look at your car payment, when you look at loan payments, majority of those, including your insurance, could be fixed, meaning it's not going to adjust, it's not going to vary. It's going to make budgeting very easy for you. And of course, you can automate this process entirely. There are a lot of tools, like I know Rocket has a tool, Mint has a tool. There's a lot of different places that have a lot of tools that track and really looking at those expenses when it comes to savings and when it comes to budgeting. And of course, the big thing that you also do have to, and I preach this to everyone, having an emergency fund. Sitting down and really having an emergency fund and parking it in that high yield savings account is a game changer. It keeps you from having to borrow. Let me repeat that so you guys understand. If I have an emergency, let's say I need new tires for my car, or a tire blows out, I'm driving home from work, something happens, I need a new tire, tire's gonna run me $300. Majority of Americans cannot come up with that $300, meaning they're going right back to plastic, they're going back to borrowing, they're going back to credit cards, they're going back to whatever means to get that vehicle back on the road. When you have an emergency fund in place, if something like that happens, that is a true emergency. Now, of course, you can't go through and have the justification of everything in your life is an emergency, but if you have a true emergency, you already have the money set aside. You don't need to borrow anything, which again is a really big game changer. Now, also when it comes to financial goals, this is another big part where I had financial goals in my 20s. Really, in my 30s, I solidified them. I wrote them down. I have them on sticky notes on my computer. Making smart goals really makes a difference. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. If you really go through and you build out your financial goals, even if you don't break it down to such a very specific systematic approach, you need your goals, you need them written down. If it's retiring at 50, if it's paying for college, if it's buying a home, those goals being visually and being written down in a place that you visit frequently. You could stick them to your bathroom mirror, you could put them on your computer monitor, but the more that you see them, the more you're going to realize them, and the more you're really going to second guess. For me personally, I wanted to go ahead, and I know when I want to retire at the age of 50, I've been saving probably roughly 50 to 60% of my income, and I did this through eliminating all of my expenses. I have one frequent bill, which is my mortgage payment. Everything else is variable expenses, because everything else I can cut costs, everything else is completely paid for in its entirety, giving me the ability and really the goal. I have a very specific goal of retiring. It's measurable. I know exactly what the time bound is, when I'm going to retire, and exactly blueprinting how I'm going to get there. Now, of course, if you want some instant gratification, or really looking at a job, the nominal wage growth year over year, asking for a raise is a way to instantly get and really be able to make and really afford a lot more bills. You can afford a lot more payments. You can afford to save a lot more money. Asking for a raise and really a bump in pay means that you're going to get the exact same, or the same income, just at a higher rate. So if you're making, $15 an hour, they take it to $16 an hour. Guess what? That is giving you more disposable income. You can talk to your boss. You can look at quarterly reviews, annual reviews, see exactly how you can make money in your current situation. And if that fails, which for some of us will, you can start a side hustle. That is one of the big reasons why I started YouTube. All of the revenue that I generate from YouTube goes into that M1 account. It actually goes into a YouTube or a M1 account that I named AdSense. Every single penny that I get from YouTube from this channel goes right into that AdSense. From the memberships, from the super chats, to everything that we get, it goes straight into an investment account. That investment account starts growing, it starts compounding. It really makes a really, really big snowball effect. And of course, the one I'm going to leave you with is opening an investment account. So I want to run through this really quick, just because I have had a lot of people say, hey, I have money at my bank, I have money at my credit union, I don't know how to get it from point A, a financial institution, into point B, which of course is a brokerage account or an investment account. How do I bridge and really make that? So the first thing you need to do, guys, click that link down below for M1 Finance. You can go ahead, sign up, go through the registration process. Once you have that, it'll have you select what you want to invest in. This is where you want to do all of your own research. Now, if you're new to investing, I would start off with probably about $100. Start the account, put $100 in there, play around with it, look at your options, see what you want to invest in. But opening a brokerage account is really the first way. And if you want to, you can also open a Roth IRA that they do have available in there. I really recommend, if you can get a Roth 401k, if you can get a Roth IRA, they are going to be the best investment vehicles even at a younger age, because you're prepaying for your taxes, meaning future you're not kicking the can down the road, and you're not going to have a lot of expenses and tax costs when it comes to later on in life. So guys, I hope this is a very generalized kind of video, but proven ways to build your wealth. And these are tried and true. I personally have done those. There's a lot of financial advisors and a lot of investment coaches that have done the exact same. It is proven when you start from zero. If you have these things in place, it will make a difference. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.